everybody, and welcome back to another day with Miss Mary and another parable. I want to say hello first to everybody who's watching. Hopefully, Ellie and Kaylee and Olivia and Brittany and Ashley and Emmeline, Cam, Gabe, Penny, Rosie, Lucy, Jaden, Jaron, Justin, Lily, and anyone else. Hello and welcome to this story about something big from something small. This is going to be a little bit different than what's in your Bible if you read this story, but it's still the same idea, and it's about a teeny tiny little seed. And first, before we go on, I want to show you what this teeny tiny seed looks like. The story's about a mustard seed, and it's also about yeast. So here in my dish, you can see see that little tiny seed? That's a mustard seed. And the big brown one is an apple seed. And the stuff that looks like sand, that is yeast. Yeast is what we put into bread and rolls and different things to make them grow into a big loaf of bread. Have you ever smelled fresh bread? Oh, it smells so good. And it grows. It grows from the yeast. So that's what we're going to talk about and figure out what Jesus was trying to tell people with this particular parable. He was comparing heaven to the way that the mustard seed and the yeast change. That tiny little seed that you saw, it grows into a tree so big that birds can sit in the branches. Some of them are 6 to 12 feet tall and round, and the birds just cluster in there. They like to eat those little black mustard seeds. Some of you know some of the dads, like think about Ellie's dad, Eric, or Gabe's dad, Steve, or Emmeline and Cam's dad, Ben. They're really tall. They're 6 feet or maybe a little bit taller. So this tree can grow that tall or twice as tall. That tiny little seed. And if you've ever, like I said, seen anybody bake bread, you'll see that the dough is just a little ball of dough. But then we put it away in a warm place and it grows and grows and grows. If it didn't, then we would have something like a cracker. But it's the yeast that does that. And Jesus told the story about a baker to help explain the realm of heaven. Same thing with the mustard seed story. A baker mixed some yeast into 60 pounds of a flour, and the yeast transformed it into enough bread to feed at least 100 people. Wow. And the reason he told these stories about the mustard seed and the big tree and the yeast and all of the bread was he wanted people to understand that something so tiny as the mustard seed or the yeast can grow into something so big, like God's kingdom. And each of us can do our own small part in telling others about God and his kingdom. And then the church continues to grow and grow and grow. You know, in the beginning, if you think about it, Jesus only had a few believers. But the number of people who followed Jesus grew and grew. And that's because the first few told a few. And then they told a few more, and a few more, and a few more, and a few more. And that's what we need to do. We need to share God's story. Sometimes we do a little thing, and it ends up making a big difference. So if you ever wonder what you can do, just remember the story about the mustard seed. Bye now. Have a wonderful week.